You're right, FromSoft should add 200 times speed.
I'm sure somebody would still upload a no-hit run like the day that
Playing
dropped.
the bongo drums.
Yeah, DDR bongo drums only. I've been haunted by a thought, David.
Oh.
Do you know the book title, Do Androids Dream of Electric Sheep?
Yes. Blade Runner is the movie, correct?
Correct, yes.
Yeah.
Right before I was falling asleep, my podcast brain engaged, and the thing that came out of it was, do freaky androids dream of electric feet?
Ooh. What does 9S dream about? That's a freaky android.
Welcome to Video Game Podtimism. It's the Optimist Video Game Variety Show where two best friends talk about the wonderful world of gaming. I didn't have anything else. I just needed to say it into a microphone.
You just needed to release it into the world.
Yeah, I needed to be free of that thought.
Do freaky androids dream of electric feet?
Feet, yeah.
I feel like that's a good mouth warm up for enunciation.
Yeah.
Do freaky androids dream of electric feet?
Of electric feet.
Feet.
Hey, logistical update. We're on the TWG Podcast Network. Thank you for having us, everybody.
Yeah, thank you.
And there's a bunch of shows on there, like Into the Aether and Frog of the Week and Can't Let It Go and .zip and Paws and Claws. And recently a new addition. You've probably heard us speak about the podcast Girl Mode before. A very good podcast about video games that I think is largely news based. They typically cover a lot of the comings and goings of video games. And also, of course, talking about what they're playing and stuff like that. But they recently got added to the Worst Garbage Network. So just wanted to, yay.
Round of applause.
Both of us love the pod. So it's cool to see them get sort of brought into the fold as sort of a reminder that really doesn't really change anything. But if you want to hang out and talk about that podcast, there's a spot in the Discord now. So come say hi. It's a good podcast and you should listen to it.
The Discord is expanding.
It is expanding. There's already sort of a mountain of channels in that Discord. And so a part of my brain was how many podcasts do we need to add before we've hit the limit of podcasts for a Discord? But I don't think we're even close to that. So yeah, still welcome, Girl Mode. Happy you're here. So yeah, just a quick shout at the top. However, or maybe furthermore, or in addition to.
Oh, whoa. Is this a second part?
No. David, have you been playing video games?
No. Okay.
Jump scare.
I have been playing video games, Chase.
I would love to hear about them.
Yeah, I've been playing quite a few.
Oh, yeah.
Real quick, I just want to say I beat Hyper Light Drifter.
Yes, yeah.
Great game. It's in the all killer, no filler category.
For real.
Never drags, never overstays its welcome. Feels like I could go back in and discover more things that I think would be fun to do, with different power-ups and whatnot. And I really liked the last boss. I thought it was just spoilers for Hyper Light Drifter. I thought it was just great that you get to then fight the thing that's kind of been haunting you this whole game and just coming out and just sunning you and just destroying you whenever you see it. So yeah, that was really good. Great combat. Good vibes. I have no idea what is going on with the story, but who cares, right? So yeah, just wanted to hit that one real quick. Still been trudging through Sekiro.
Trudging? That's a different description of the normal.
I guess not trudging. I guess trudging is very negative connotation. I've still been strolling through Sekiro. Jauntily walking through Sekiro.
Jauntily jonking through Sekiro.
Anyways.
What is this?
That means nothing. I beat Owl. That's a very fun fight. It really feels like you are fighting your dad because he just kind of does everything that you do, just bigger and stronger, and he is just such an imposing character.
Yeah.
He gives me real Johnny B. Goodman vibes in this game. I don't know about you, if you remember him in this game, but he is just humongous with this very deep voice, and he just kind of hulks around and then moves so silently and so swiftly. There is, I think, a common thread between my interpretation of the actor John Goodman and Owl in this game. Also, Owl is a good actor. He shows off his acting chops because when Sekiro, if you choose to rebuke him and not join him, he'll go down on one knee and start crying. And then as Sekiro turns around to walk away, he continues sounding like he's crying, but then slowly gets gets up and then tries to stab you in the back, which is so spooky and scary that he does that so well. Once again, John Goodman vibes. But
you're being paid off by, I guess, not Big Goodman.
The anti-Goodman pack.
Yeah, you're being paid off by Big Bad Man.
Big Bad Man. Yeah, Big Bad Man is sponsoring this podcast today, just so you know. I'm sure he's a lovely man, but yeah, I don't know. It's just he just gives me spooky vibes sometimes.
Have shaken you in some way.
Shaken me. Garen agreed. Friend of the pod, Garen. So I have Light on my side too. I'm now in the Fountainhead Palace, which is a very challenging and fun part of the game. I really enjoy this area because it offers like a slightly different way of playing the game. It kind of opens up just a tad. It doesn't feel quite as linear in this area. And you know, when you first get there, you go across that bridge, you fight that monk again, and then it shows you the whole place, the whole area you can go to, including the mountaintop in the background where you fight the dragon. So I think that's just like a very interesting way to put in like an open zone portion of the game in there a little bit, because you can't go really back to where you had been previously in the game, at least not physically. You can teleport back there through the shrines, but yeah, it really feels like they're giving you I guess what I'm trying to say is that it feels like they're like a little open world getting ready for Elden Ring sort of feel in this area, right?
Yeah.
Just how they present to you visually the map that you're going to be engaging with, your ability to kind of see like, okay, here is kind of where the dungeon crawly part is, but what happens if I try to go across the water here? There's something that hits me. I can attack that thing. I can get across, but it's going to be difficult, but I can do it. So it's just a different way of engaging with the game. And I just kind of forgot that this area opened up like that. And it's been pretty fun to try it again. Yeah. It
reminds me of when you first pull up into Lendel, the capital in Elden Ring, where it's like you get a pretty good look at most of it. And then it's like, I can go everywhere in here.
Yeah.
And that's like almost overwhelming for a moment, but then it's like, I'm very excited to go like dig around and see what sort of fucked up stuff they have in store for me. And
there's a lot of like little side quests in this area too, like with the carp. Yeah, that's a whole entire kerfuffle going on there. So yeah, it's just, it surprised me that this type of level design was present in this game, because I just totally forgot about it. And I think really when I first played Sekiro, I was just terrified the whole time. So I didn't have time to like think about what I was seeing and doing. I was just trying to survive.
You just did fight or flight the whole time.
Seriously, like I remember playing this game so much more stealthily when I first played through it. And now I'm just like walking up to these guys and just like, what's up? Let's go, Okami warrior.
I will literally fight you, dragon.
I will literally fight you, dragon. Fighting all the dragons, and I will be fighting a big dragon soon. So yeah, this game is just so good. Like I've said many times before, it's still staying very, very good. It's excellent, and it's fun to see like a tiny little peek at the DNA of Elden Ring in this one too.
For sure, yeah.
I've also been playing more Mario Wonder. I went back into that one.
Ooh, interesting.
Yes, yeah. I was talking about Astrobot last week and how I was hyped, and I was like, I still haven't beaten Mario Wonder. So I popped back into that. It's still just so good. I love how they just have so much use of rhythm in this game. I feel like more than in other Mario games that I've played before, that they really play off cadence and timing to specifically like the beat of the music and how that can then give you little boosts in like how you jump and like give you extra coins and whatnot. So I really love that about this game. And it's excellent. It's a really fun game. I'm having a good time just kind of like popping in, playing a couple levels, popping back out, and then just like when the fancy strikes me, jumping back in and playing some more. It's just a very fun game, an easy game to pick back up and jump right back into. And I think that's just a very prototypical Mario game thing to do. It's just like, I haven't played this in like a month or so, but I know how to play it. It's Mario. You just get back in, you jump, you do it. It's going to be fun. It's going to be great. So yeah, they do that really well in this game.
It's like the spiritual opposite of returning to playing a Persona game when you're like halfway through a dungeon and you're like, I don't remember anything about what's happening there.
Yeah.
Or like how to even play it.
I don't know where I am in the story. Why are the characters acting this way? Why am I in this weird area? I have no idea. It's like the Gandalf meme. I have no recollection of this place, right?
Yeah.
But yeah, Mario is just it's so good. It's like putting on your favorite pair of pants whenever you play it. I have also been playing Lumines.
Lumines. You have played a lot of games this
I've
week.
been all over the place.
Lumines is a weird, or not a weird pull, but kind of a deep cut almost.
Well, I was having to watch my dog and my cat while they were outside to make sure they didn't get into shenanigans. So I figured I'm going to bring my Portal outside.
Sure.
And then I figured, what's a really good game to play on a portable Sony console? Lumines. And it was there. Yeah. They have like the final edition or whatever it's called. And this game still rocks. I have not played this game, I think, since the PSP was a thing. Yeah. So it's been a decade plus, at least. I feel like I might like this game more now than I did back then, to be honest.
I agree. I feel you on that, yeah.
I can really now fully appreciate how well visual, spatial reasoning and puzzles and dance house music go together, how well they go together. It's such a surprising combination, but you're like, yeah, I do want to move my body. I do want to rock my body, and I want to get these squares to line up and get a big combo and feel good about it.
Yeah.
I just love how between all the different levels, I don't know what you call it, but the line that goes across the screen that will then take away your blocks that you have that you've finished, right?
Yeah.
Will speed up or slow down depending on the song, depending on the time signature. Colors will change just like sporadically, and that gives you like just a second of like, oh my god, what the fuck is going on? Because you're just so into the visuals and the colors, and finding the colors together, it takes you a second. Okay, now we're doing white and green, and they're solid squares now instead of like nebulous little lights or something. So it's such a good game. And then they have all these challenges where you have to create different shapes like crosses or dogs or giraffes, and that also rocks too. It's so much fun. And I was just like playing it, and I'm like, oh, it's been 40 minutes and my eyes are watering, and I've just gone through one run. I'm like, how did I get here? And then you can go back and like choose different songs that you really like to play and like just have them continuously going. So it's a great experience. So this game is still amazing, and honestly, I'm like, why haven't they done more with this formula? This
is surprising. Yeah.
Like, is this a Sony first party game?
I don't know, because there is like a remastered version on Switch, so it's not like they don't let it leave, it's also on Steam.
Yeah, I feel like there's got to be more in this mine of Lumines. Like we can make more things in here with this style of game. So I don't know. I want more Lumines, I guess is what I'm saying. What it comes down to.
I'm with you. I think just the success of something like Tetris Connected, or Tetris Effect Connected is the name of the game.
Oh, there you go.
The success of something like that shows that like you can still just put out what is essentially just Tetris, and it's still really good. Like the appeal of that is sort of the visuals and the music that's going on behind it, which is also a like kind of house music-y video game, which is like really, really cool. You're right that it like goes together very well. Also, like what a swing to be like, we're going to try and maybe do the same thing that one of like the best video games ever has done. Yeah. Yeah. Like it's really hard to think of how do we make a different kind of Tetris. I feel like I play mini games like this in a lot of games, like even what is it, like 51 Worldwide Classics or something, like has a version of kind of a Tetris game, and it's like, it's fine. It's okay. Yeah. But Lumines is really, really good. Like they got pretty close to like actually having a Tetris competitor here. Yeah. Weirdly enough connects, I think, thematically to maybe one of the next games you're going to talk about. But,
I was about to say, yeah, exactly.
But yeah, it's really impressive that they were able to like make it that good and that long ago too. Like Lumines is not a new game at this point.
No, it really stands the test of time. And I remember pouring hours into that game on the PSP when it came out. And that was like, that was really the probably the best game on the PSP.
Maybe, yeah.
For me, like looking back on it, that's the one I played the most on that console for sure. Yeah. So yeah, bring Lumines back, baby. Let's do it. Let's Lumines it up. But yeah, that is a good segue, I think, to talk about a game that I know both of us have been playing, if you want to jump in on this as well, which is Astrobot.
It's time. Let's talk about this.
It's time. We're here. Man, this game is excellent. This game is really, really good. Yeah. It is just pure distilled fun. It does not care about anything else besides just giving you a joyous, beautiful, tight experience. Yeah. The visuals are stellar.
Pretty
just
unbelievable,
like the fidelity of things, like even far off in the distance, how just textured and detailed and clear they are is pretty damn impressive. The haptics on this game are unreal. Different types of foliage have different feelings on the controller in this game. How Asobi is able to master the haptics, whereas most other game developers seem to just not even consider using it. And just like how much of a difference it really does make when you do it well, makes me, one, very impressed with this development team, and two, sad that other developers aren't taking advantage of it to give you, because that was like the big thing with the DualSense, was like haptics. You're going to really feel different things with a controller, and it can do it, but people just aren't taking advantage of it for one reason or another. So it's sad to see that. It's disappointing. But yeah, just everything about this game is so refreshing and fun, and the little like Pikmin-esque portion of the game where you're on your planet and you can get all your Astrobots to then go and move rocks so you can get to different parts of the crash site with the PlayStation 5. It's all just works together so well. And it's just like every couple of minutes, it feels like they're giving you something new to do in this game, whether it's like a new item that Astro can use, like the boxing gloves or the bulldog rocket jetpack thing. Or it's like, oh, there's an asteroid over here. If I go and hit it, it creates a new world, and I can go in and just do like a really quick one-off bot rescue. Or now I'm over in like this lost galaxy and I'm doing a very difficult level in comparison to what I had been doing before. It's just, there's always something new. Oh, now I have to put back together the memory of the PS5, and it's like this haptic like hammer that I'm using with the controller to hit the nails back in. It just is so varied in what it does and how you play the game. It's just so good, and just so many times I just had a big smile on my face playing this game because it's just so joyous. I just feel like this development team really loved making this game, and it shines through in that. I'm like mostly almost in exactly the same spot with a lot of this stuff. It's worth pointing out that this is essentially like kind of a Mario game. We haven't really described what this game is. Sorry, this is essentially Sony's answer to Mario. And
it's the closest they've ever gotten, I will say.
They've tried to crack this code
a lot
since the PlayStation.
And like I liked a lot of those games that I think were trying to be sort of like Sony's answer, right? I enjoyed Spyro, I enjoyed Crash, or like, you know, even something like Jak and Daxter that is not necessarily like specifically going after Mario. I think still kind of exists in the same universe as like we are responding to the fact that Mario is so good. And I liked all of those games, but I think you can really see the contrast in how much Mario iterated over the like following couple of years, you know, like kind of after, essentially during the Wii era is where I feel like a lot of the other game companies were like, I think we're good on making platformers. They kind of all shifted over into like, we're going to do like shooters now. Like that's our thing. And then eventually sort of the like third person action game. But like Nintendo was like, nah, man, we're still doing Mario over here. And like you really, really see the contrast in, I think like comparing, you know, Sony's last couple efforts of like maybe like Knack or something like that to, you know, Mario Odyssey or something like that is like, those are two games in different universes. Like they're just totally different experiences. And so it's wild to see them get this close. I am not going to stand here in front of one of my best friends and God and say that that like this is better than Mario. I don't know that I can say that. Mario's just like unbelievably good, but like it's at least Kirby, you know, like Kirby and the Forgotten World like was absolutely a banging video game. And this, weirdly enough, this one kind of reminds me of that game more than like a specific Mario game. Just in the way the levels are kind of chunked out, and like how they're usually all built around like one thing in a level, and a lot of that is like ability based. But yeah, the actual game is like sensational. It is so much fun and so cool. I think like this and Mario both rely on like surprise and delight being two of the things that they're constantly trying to give you of like, how am I going to get over this, or how am I going to get through this challenge? And then it's either delightful the way that it does it, or it is surprising, or both. And that's just always really a fun thing to rely on, you know? It feels like Odyssey is sort of still one step, I'm not going to say in front of, but maybe beside this game, in that like the scope and scale of Odyssey is just so big.
Absolutely.
You know, like I've played what I would call like a fair bit of this game. And I'm probably already about a third of the way through it. Mm-hmm. And like, I can already see like, okay, here's how the rest of the game is going to go. I get it. But whereas like, I think Odyssey throughout the whole thing, I was like, I have no idea how big this game is. Mm-hmm. And not that like size is the thing that I think should determine how good a video game is, but like still, it feels like the scope of that game was really ambitious. And I think it's a totally fair thing to be like, we're going to make exactly how much we can or maybe want to. And that's exactly how big this game is. So like, you know, no shade there, but just like, you can still see that Nintendo is like firing on all cylinders with the Mario series.
Yeah, absolutely. I don't think it comes quite close to Mario.
Yeah.
But it is its own fun experience. I think it is different enough than Mario to not feel like this is the Lies of P of Mario, right?
No, definitely not.
I think that's a good thing. I think that they have really planted their flag as Astro is going to be their platformer buddy, and like this is the type of game that you can expect from it, which is a lot of different ways to engage with the game. They're going to really use the controller. They're going to use everything that the PlayStation can do, and they're going to make great fun levels that are just fun. And it really makes me excited to see like what they're going to do next with this IP. Because you know, like Mario 64 was great, but Mario Odyssey is like a whole entire other
something
beast,
else,
right?
Yeah.
So I'm curious to see how it's going to evolve over the years. And, you know, it's like, I'm not a huge like collectibles in game person, but I love all the little collectibles in this game, finding all the different characters, using the gacha machine to get like props for them, right? Like Psycho Mantis has an old school TV and PlayStation, and it's just it's his fight going on over there. It's so good. Alucard has a coffin he sits in, so it's just fun to kind of like pimp out your little area with things and stuff to do. And also, just one other thing that I just really liked about the game is like I love when you get an Astrobot and it goes into the virtual version of the DualSense and you can just flip them. You can flip them up and down out of there, fun, and it's just fun. Just give your buddy a little flip. He's having a great time. You're having a great time. It's just fun. It's a silly thing to add, but it just, I think, really contributes to the overall feeling of joy in the game.
Yeah.
It's just great.
It's worth noting that like the way that you're progressing through these levels is that a lot of your progress through the main game will be gated around how many of these little bots you save in any given level. Saving just means like finding them essentially. And some of them are like bots modeled after different video games, right? I was going to say Sony video games, but a lot of them are not. They're just other video games that somehow I guess they've gotten either
rights for,
I guess, but they never call them the specific name. And so I wonder like, are we skirting around the edges here? But like, surely they have to, because some of them like, that's just the character, you know, like there's no sort of discrepancy here. I think like the one thing that it's sort of like the hairs on the back of my neck stood up a little bit is just that like the game definitely relies on like me being like, oh my God, it's Psycho Mantis. As a mechanic, but I think that's fine because like Nintendo does that, right? Like that's what is Smash Bros if not like, oh my God, they put Banjo-Kazooie in the game, you know?
Yeah.
But I think the thing that sort of bums me out is like a lot of these games are not very readily available, and also that like Sony has not really invested in a lot of these series for a long time, you know? Like, there's no new Ape Escape game or you know, Metal Gear is a pretty good example of like that was handled pretty poorly. And so it's sort of Okami. Yeah. Another one. Cause like, where's the Okami, you know? And also coming during the week when like, you know, Concord got shut down and Sony's making all these bizarre decisions with like, you know, saying like the CFO is like, we don't have enough IP. It's like,
we don't have enough IPs, but here's a $700 discless console.
So bizarre. And so like, I know Aether talked about this and so did Girl Mode and their episodes about it. Cause like everybody's playing this game right now. So like everybody's sort of talking about where it is, where they're at with it. And I think they express similar things. And like, you know, I guess my interpretation is that like, it doesn't feel to me like Astrobot is cynical about it, right? Like to me, this game reads as a celebration of those games.
Yeah.
But the sort of meta text of the state of the industry makes me like bummed out that this is kind of the best we've got, you know?
The best we've got as far as seeing those games again?
Yeah. Like the representation of their history in these games and like sort of the like preservation of those games is like
sure.
Some of them currently, the only thing we're going to get is this Astrobot that kind of looks like Eco, you know?
Sure.
And so like it's, you can just feel the sort of tension there when you're playing it. If you have some like context about like how Sony conducts itself. And I think it would feel a lot worse if the game was worse, if it was like a bad game.
Sure.
You know? But it's so good that it's like there's just tension there, you know? Like if Knack was the one that was relying on your sense of nostalgia and like these game series that have not been around for a long time, then I'd be like, wow, it really does feel like they're kind of just trying to cash in. But they've also made an exceptional video game here. So it's like both of those two things are true, which just kind of creates a weird amount of friction in my own brain when I'm playing it.
Gotcha. Okay.
Which is mostly just me being frustrated at Sony rather than this video game.
Yeah, they haven't really put out a lot of games for the PS5.
No, and like I think a lot of why, and like Nintendo isn't perfect about this, right? There are plenty of series that they've just kind of left behind. But I also think that there is sort of a love that they have for some of those series that like, even though they haven't gotten a game for a while, they're still like, yeah, we like this series, or like this character is going to show up, or, you know, something like that, where it doesn't seem like they have ever totally fully left something behind. Again, there are instances of this, and I think, you know, especially something like Mother or Earthbound, it's like they've done nothing with this. But you know, they I feel like they are usually keeping an eye on a lot of their like series to be like, what does this game look like now? You know, whether that's, you know, the Princess Peach game that came out this year, or like essentially reinventing Kirby with the Forgotten Land, or, you know, anything like that, or you know, the new Zelda game that's coming out that is like largely Zelda focused. It just feels like they are constantly trying to like either keep those games fresh and like show the love for them, or, you know, in some of the cases allow those games to be played. The big glaring omission being that like weird 3-pack of Mario games that they put out for like a limited amount of time.
They're trying to do like Disney Vault shit with it.
Yes,
like,
yeah,
no,
the like testings. Come on, man, that's so weird.
That's not good. Yeah.
And so like none of these companies are like perfect about this stuff, but I think Sony is sort of the farthest on the edge of like feeling like they just kind of ditched some of these series and they're like, all right, see ya, we're going to make The Last of Us for 10 years.
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah, we're going to make 5 The Last of Us. I'd say that's Sony. I guess I see what you're saying about Nintendo. They'd like to iterate on their series. Sony, I think, likes to get a lot of new IPs. And I would think that that's not a huge issue typically, but it is with this generation because they don't really have a lot of new IPs for the PS5. Because it's like, you know, Naughty Dog made Jak and Daxter for the PS2. Then they did Uncharted for the PS3 and PS4. And then they did... and The Last of Us as well. So they want their developers to make like a lot of new IPs, and instead of iterating on existing IPs, is kind of always the impression that I've gotten of them. But yeah, they just haven't done that this generation. And I think that it wouldn't feel quite as bad to me if we were still getting interesting new games from these same developers who have made these icons in the past.
Yeah.
But yeah, and it is, then they come out and say like, oh, we don't have any good IPs, when they're sitting on a treasure trove. And it's like, yeah, if you can't think of any new ones, why don't you go back and use the ones that people already have a connection with and just see what you could do with it and get a little creative.
Have a lot. Like,
they have a lot. There's like so many. There's so many different things that they could do. And it seems that, yeah, as someone with a PlayStation 5, you're stuck with not getting the typical new slew of IPs from good developers, and you're not getting any of the old stuff either. It's just, you're just kind of stuck with NBA 2K25.
Yeah, and like I don't need them to necessarily be coming up with something new all the time. That's the ideal, right? Of like, just let them do whatever they want to and like come up with something cool, or just, you know, do the game you want to do. It doesn't matter. But also that would also need to come with them not shutting down hella studios whenever they don't make a total hit. You know?
Clover, which RIP. Was Clover a Sony studio?
I think not. I don't remember, honestly. That was Okami, right?
Okami
and Beautiful Joe.
Yeah.
Yeah. I don't remember if they were specifically Sony, because like a couple of those games came out on GameCube,
as well. Yeah.
But yeah, just like if they were like, okay, we're no new IPs in PlayStation, fine. But like, you know, don't lay off like Japan Studios and Clover or like, you know, whoever, right?
Yeah.
Because I think that's the thing that is more painful for me, is just like, there's this game that is making a lot of money that is I would say relying, but that I feel like it's actually not that big of a part of this game. Like the biggest part of this game is the fact that it is fun and you jump and it's like a platformer, right?
Yeah.
Like the characters in it are sort of like flavor almost of like some of the bots are people you might recognize.
Yeah.
But it's not like that's not the whole thing here. But yeah, point being it's complicated. I don't feel perfect about it, but
it's complicated. Yeah.
But even still, like video game, very good. You know, like that is the most complicating factor here. It's not Liza P for sure, but like it raises a similar kind of thing in me of just like I want to love this so much, and there's like one little bit that's keeping me from being like this is like perfect almost. But even still, the game is phenomenal.
Yeah.
And the point you were bringing up earlier, I think is really true that like, I think the easiest comparison point is Mario, but there's so much in here that is not just Mario. Like the Pikmin thing is there.
Yeah.
The like fact that you're just like rescuing these bots is like, that's a very Spyro idea of like going into these levels and like finding a bunch of dragons and shit like that. And like that being the thing that you're collecting. The overworld thing is very Spyro. And just like the little like mechanics that you run into in a lot of these levels are like, they all feel like they're pulling from something different. And in a way where it's not lifting, like it doesn't feel bad. The fact that they're like doing these mechanics, it feels like good that they're experimenting with it, because the first time you see it, it's like, oh, the crocodile things feel like I'm playing ARMS right now.
Yeah. Yeah, exactly.
But they have so many cool things in here that it's like, I didn't get that from ARMS, you know, like they have changed enough of it to the point where it feels like something very new and novel a lot of the time.
Yeah. No, they really make it their own for sure.
Good video game though.
Good video game.
The actual experience of playing the video game is great.
Yeah, it feels wonderful. It's like a massage for my eyes. It's one of those type of games.
Yes, yeah. I've been trying to kind of play it a little bit slower than I think I would naturally do, because I'm like, I don't want to just blow through this. It's such like a rich video game as far as like how much enjoyment I'm getting out of it for like how long I play it. It's like I play it for an hour and be like, whoa, that was a lot of video game that I don't want to just like beat it in one sitting.
Yeah. Yeah. You got to savor it.
Yeah, I really do.
Also, one last thing. It's great that the first boss is a gorilla.
Big old monkey man. Yeah, I love that.
It seems like a little cheeky aside.
Yes, yeah. It's very funny. It doesn't, again, it feels like they love Mario more than they hate Mario.
Oh, yeah. Yeah.
Which like I think is the right tact, because like there were times in like the sort of 2000s and late 90s where it's like an ad would be like crash kicking Mario in the teeth. Your grandma couldn't play this game. Like there was a lot of that. And so like it's kind of nice. It's just kind of a cheeky like, hey, it's a gorilla. Get it? And he's got the sort of like DK quaff on his like head and stuff.
Yeah. And you just like bust his teeth.
Yeah. Really good. A weirdly violent video game.
Yeah. Every once in a while, it's just like, oh my God, I'm like murdering this monkey by like tearing his face apart.
Yes.
So weird.
It's like, I think you can gloss over it because they're all like robots, and so it doesn't really like hit you sometimes, but every now and then I'm like, I wrecked that character. There's like nothing left of them.
Astro just dismantled it bolt by bolt.
Yes, yeah. But it never rises to the occasion where it's like Happy Tree Friends or something, where it's actually being like truly actually violent in a way that I'm like, oof, that's very unsettling, you know? Like if the robots bled like, I don't know, like an alien or something, like white blood, then suddenly I'd be like, oh boy, like this is maybe too much, but it's fine. Or at least it has been for me.
Got to get the white blood mod.
Yeah, I need more gore in Astrobot. That's my one point I'm knocking off this.
It's going to be like the Astrobots from Alien. They have that white like cooling serum fluid.
Shouts out to Alien Romulus.
Did you like it?
Yeah, I did like it. It's like kind of a little over home plate, a little bit of a fastball over home plate of like, yeah, it was an Alien movie. And like, I wish there was a little bit less AI in there, like the face replacement, but I had a good time. It's fucking, whenever a xenomorph comes on screen, I'm like, great movie. I'm watching a movie. Baby.
I'm here.
Yeah. Anyway, Astrobot.
Cool, man. Good game. That's all I've been playing. What else have you been playing, Chase?
Yeah. So yeah, as mentioned, of course, Astrobot. But the only other game that I've been like putting a lot of time into, I went on vacation to Honolulu in the last week or so. and played. I brought a lot of video games. Like I put a bunch on my Odin Pro 2 to play. And there's one I would love to bring in a future episode. What is it? Radiata Stories or something like that.
Okay.
Very interesting. It's a game I'd never heard of, but it's on PS2 and it's very funny, but another episode. But the one that I put by far the most time into was a game called Baten Kaitos, David.
Ooh, I've heard this name.
Yes.
I don't know nothing about the game, but I've heard the name.
I knew very little about it too. This was a game that was actually suggested to us by listener Murray. Thank you, Murray. Who anytime I talk to Murray, they always mention like you simply must play Baten Kaitos. It's like the game that you must engage with. Mm-hmm. Anyway, they had sent in a message saying, "Listen, you got to play this game, dog. It just got remastered and everything." So thank you for your suggestion, Murray. I'm playing this game now. It's also a game that like simply would not fit into a good game segment. It is so long and lengthy that like I'm probably like 10 to 15 hours into it, and I'm still like, I don't know if I have a fully formed feeling about it yet.
Whoa.
But I'm gonna talk about it anyway.
Great.
From what I understand, so the video game. This is a kind of an older game that has essentially been remastered recently. The original one had come out December 5th of 2003 in Japan and November 16th of 2004 in North America for GameCube. But the Switch version came out last year. And I'd say like reviews of it were like pretty good at the time, like kind of like high B range.
Yeah.
But I just like really, truly had not heard about it at the time. I feel like I had seen sort of the cover art before, but just I didn't engage with it for whatever reason. The game itself was this like cooperative effort between Monolith Soft and Tri Crescendo. You will likely know Monolith Soft from, they're the makers of the Xenosaga and Xenoblade games.
Gotcha.
And like, I think, most notably Xenoblade Chronicles 3 dropped last year and was like, I think kind of their bigger success. At least that's what it felt like to me at the time. And like, for just a little bit of like history on that company, a lot of the people who ended up at Monolith were ex-Square folks. So like people who used to work at Square or Squaresoft came over essentially just as like, we want to make other games. And specifically a lot of people who worked on Chrono Cross and Chrono Trigger. Mm-hmm. I feel like you really feel the influence of that on this game. Specifically Chrono Cross, weirdly enough, and I think especially visually, like if you look at screenshots of Chrono Cross and Baten Kaitos, like you really see kind of similar ideas. And I think the world design of this game is just like wonderful, is so interesting and so cool. There is like the world itself is like essentially the surface of Earth has been like it rendered it completely uninhabitable. And so like everybody just lives on these like floating islands, which is weirdly very Chrono Trigger as well. Like there's a part in Chrono Trigger where like that is an idea that gets broached. Mm-hmm. Essentially, there's like, I think 5 continents that are just like floating worlds in the sky, essentially.
Wow.
Also, as a result, everybody has developed the ability to fly. So everybody has like wings that are attached to them.
That's cool. Very
cool. Just like there are so many swings with the world and the characters immediately that I'm like, hey, this is pretty cool. This is pretty sick. It for whatever reason, it all kind of strikes me as like that feels very Chrono Trigger-y or very Chrono Cross in the way that they're describing a world in fantasy that I kind of haven't seen before. Like there are elements of other things in there, but I always feel like the worlds that they present in those games are very ambitious. There's a lot of like detail and richness to them that you can kind of dig into. Mm-hmm. Anyway, to describe like what this game is, this is very much a sort of mid 2000s RPG, and the battle system is kind of turn-based, kind of not. It's a little bit more active. Essentially, you will go back and forth in turns between you and the enemy. And on your turn, you will choose from a set of cards, David.
There it is.
Yes, that will allow you to do a number of things. So if you are the main character, then you've got some sort of like defend cards and some attack cards and maybe some finisher cards that you can only really do once you've done a few other attacks. And it's almost active because like eventually there's like a countdown that you have to like respond to and make sure that you're doing your attacks within the right time. And once you start attacking, if you kind of like pause for too long, then that'll just like stop your turn and go to somebody else. And so it's this kind of interesting hybrid of both active and turn-based, right? You're balancing both being present with deciding what you need to do, but also like nobody else is acting while you're acting.
Sure.
So that's all really interesting. And like I think at the time I was very reticent to play card games. because they seemed overwhelming. And I think this one does a really good job of just giving you the most basic deck. Initially, it's just like some sword cards and some shield cards, and that's really it. And they just give you cards, or Magnus, as they describe it.
Magnus?
Magnus. You get Magnuses, which it's very bizarre. They have like some kind of in-world explanation of, it's like, I think that they're supposed to be like physical manifestations. Like if you pull out a sword Magnus, then you will like physically draw a sword out of the air.
Whoa.
Rather than it being sort of a metaphor for what you're doing. It's like, no, this is like a thing in the world of the game.
So one single card is called a Magnus?
Yes, I think so.
And so like, is the plural Magnuses, Magni?
It's a great question. I don't know.
What's a deck called? Is it just a deck of Magnus?
Yeah, I think it's just a deck.
Okay.
It's worth noting that the original game had an English voice cast, but they didn't bring it over to this one. And I was like, that's kind of bizarre. Like, I wonder why. And I went to go listen to the English voice cast. I understand why they made that decision.
Sure.
It's not phenomenal. And I will say I am much more convinced of the characters when they are speaking Japanese. Like,
sure.
I'm just like, I understand what they're doing. I sort of get the intonation, even though I can't understand the words. It's like, that person seems real to me.
You're running on vibes, baby.
Yeah, versus like the bizarre kind of 2004 voice acting. I understand why they made a decision. It's a little bit bizarre that they just wouldn't include it as an option, like default to Japanese, but I get it, right? So yeah, I haven't heard them speak the word Magnus out yet. Anyway, so the pitch of the game is essentially that you're playing as this dude Callus, who like, you get some, I wouldn't say complex, but interesting cutscenes in the beginning about like stuff that has happened to Callus prior to you taking over control of him. And it seems like he has lost, I think it's his like grandfather and maybe his like brother or something like that. I don't exactly remember. They don't talk about it super often, but it's coming up more. And so I'm wondering like when I'm about to get like a lore dump here. But you get all that and he just like wakes up on some like one of these islands and he's like, I don't know how I got here. And they're like, well, you should just like go wander around and like try and get your bearings back. And you end up running into this woman named Zelha or Zella. I'm not really sure. And they inadvertently, I guess spoilers for the first like little bit of this game, but they release the first end Magnus.
Ooh,
which is like,
it's like an end table, an end Magnus.
Yeah, just one cool card that goes at the end of a deck. No, it's like, I think it's like, again, I'm working with limited lore because I think they haven't exactly revealed what it is, but it seems to be sealing some kind of ancient evil.
Ooh,
which like just, I was kind of having a good time with it. I'm just like, yeah, it's RPG stuff. But the moment that like some old god started talking in a very deep voice, I'm like, hey, I think I'm actually very in on this story now. It's very cool. So I was really very compelled by what was going on there. Not to mention the game also has like a very strange but cool sort of fourth wall break that they're doing, where Callus at some point like realizes that he's being directed almost and like talks directly to the camera.
Whoa.
And you also had to input like your name in the beginning. And I just put Chase because I'm like, sure, maybe this is just my save. And he's like, oh, your name is Chase. Like, what's your deal? Why are you like guiding me? And so the game like characterizes you as this like guardian spirit.
That's cool.
It's very interesting.
You should have put in Stormcalmer.
Oh my God. Yeah. Put in the full blown prison name. That would have been great. And so like they haven't really worked with that a lot, right? There's not like super deep lore implications there, but I'm wondering if there will be eventually, because like they never leave that behind, right? Like you meet Zella and she's like, oh, you have a guardian spirit with you. Like that's what that is. I can hear him. And every now and then they'll ask you like, what do you want to do, Chase? Right. Like, and you have to respond with like a dialogue box or tree, I guess.
Do you make a sound?
I'm me personally. Yeah. I just sort of like hum into the microphone.
I didn't know if the game made a sound for your character, but I'm glad that you're humming along.
I just scream at my Switch whenever they ask me a question. No, there's no voice for you in the game. It's just sort of like, I think you're supposed to be a voice in their head. But I'm really interested in the implication of that for the game. I haven't gotten through the whole thing, but I feel like that's a pretty big thing to set up to not have that mean something later in the game. So I'm kind of interested to see where that goes. I suspect that I am like getting to some sort of like second act twist pretty soon, because I'm getting through sort of the main I wouldn't call it quest, but like the thing that the characters are starting to like rally around and the thing that they're trying to do. I'm getting closer to what I think is like done with that. And I know that the game is not short. And I'm like, I'm only like 10 to 15 hours into this. I don't think I'm even close to done. So like, what is what's going to happen here? Which is really exciting. From like the reviews I've read online, people are always kind of like, this story is really, really good. And I think up to this point, it's been good, not great, but I sort of suspect that there will be something, I'm assuming maybe akin to in Chrono Trigger when they're like, you're going to go to different times or something like that, right? Which happens very early in Chrono Trigger, but I'm wondering like, what is the thing that they're going to bring to the kind of second act of this game?
Yeah.
So I'm enjoying all of that. I think like building a deck is very fun and satisfying, obviously. It's not super duper complicated. Like I've mostly just been replacing the cards in my deck with the better ones that I've been getting, like the ones that do more damage or are better on defense.
You don't have to think too hard about deck composition.
Not horribly, but I think that there's a lot of depth in there if you do want to do that. Like something that I haven't really dug into super hard, but like exists, and then every now and then I'll like make a mistake and do a lot of extra damage, is there are numbers on these cards. And if you start to do like poker hands, then they do extra damage, I think. So like if you do like 3 sword attacks and it's like the numbers on them are 2, 3, 4, then you get like a straight essentially, right?
Yeah.
And you will do more stuff. Balatro, it is not, but it is still very cool that like there's another kind of meta game on top of that. And there's just all these weird little touches in it that I really like. Like there's a milk item that you can use to like recover health that if you use it enough, eventually it turns into cheese and then it does like a little bit more healing. Or if you use like the banana card, it heals you for a little bit, but then eventually they'll like rot and they do damage instead, which is just like, that's fun. That's a fun little touch. Or there is a card that takes a picture of either you or the enemies. Like it just like snaps a camera, and you can sell, weirdly enough, you can sell those pictures at the like merchants for money, but you have to wait for them to develop. Like if you just go immediately, they're like underexposed and it's like doesn't look good or whatever. And so like it's very fun. Also like what a flex to be beating someone up in combat and then just pull out a camera, take a picture, and then continue wailing on them with your sword. Just every time I laugh at it. Or alternatively, you're beating someone up, take a selfie, and then continue beating them up. It's just incredible.
Wow. Number one hater.
Yeah, that's all really delightful. I think, all of that's really enjoyable, but one of the things that I keep coming back to that I'm really, really enjoying about the treatment of this game is that it does the thing that a lot of these games that have been like sort of remastered, I think is the right term for it, where it's like, this game is largely the same, but like the graphics are a little bit better. It's, maybe some of the mechanics have been tuned a little bit, but it does the thing that I really love about games like that, where they offer you a lot of ways to sand off the edges of this game, right? So like this game you can turn off combat if you want to. You just don't have to fight people.
Really?
You can turn on one hit KO. So if you truly do not want to engage with the combat at all, you can just turn on one hit KO and walk through the game.
Dang.
The one that I'm using much more often is 200 times speed. So battles go faster, you run around faster. Because like I was playing it just with like the normal sort of vanilla experience, and I'm like, this is taking kind of a long time. Like you hit people and then there's like a big chart that comes up that shows you how much damage you did and why, which I will say is helpful to learn what the game is doing and like why certain things do more damage or less. But once you kind of lock into that, I'm like, I don't know if this is really adding that much for me to see this stuff other than like what this enemy is weak or strong against. And so you can turn that off. You can just get the simplified view where it just tells you how much damage you did. And so like you're able to go through the game, I think, a lot faster than you otherwise would. And like that's what keeps me in these games is, when I played through Final Fantasy IX a couple of years ago, that's exactly why I was still there and stuck with it, was because you can do it really quickly. And like, oh, I'm fighting a boss that I'm kind of having a hard time with. I'm just going to turn on like always have your X/ move ready or whatever, right? Like They're just things to make it a lot easier. Same deal with Final Fantasy VII, the like kind of re-release treatment that they put on that one for the Switch. And so this is the kind of remaster that I want for games. I think this is kind of the best way to retain the lineage of these kind of games. And especially with a game like this, where it's like beloved and maybe underappreciated. Like it didn't really get its shine at the time, but now people have like more exposure to all the games that are coming out. And also you don't have to slog through like what it feels like to play a game in 2004, because I wouldn't say all of that stuff ages particularly well. And I think grinding and the speed of video games was something that like people had no problem just putting in like, yeah, you got to grind for 20 hours. That's a thing that you have to do in this video game. Exactly. Whereas like, I don't love doing that anymore.
No. Yeah.
And, maybe somebody does, and you can have that experience, right? It's like you can tailor sort of what you want to do. You can still very much play the sort of vanilla experience, but I'm really interested in the world and the characters and the story. And like, I like the combat, but not enough for a battle to last 4 minutes where it could last like 30 seconds for me. Mm-hmm. So I'm so about that treatment because the game is still intact. It's still here, but also you can sort of make it a little bit more palatable, which is what I'm always doing when I'm playing like on an emulator is like, I've got
bumping up that
2 times speed. Yeah. 2 times speed mapped to one of the buttons, got save states. I've got, just like ways to make it easier on myself. But, in the unfortunate case of games like that, when I'm doing 2 times speed, like the sound is all fucked up and sometimes the dialogue isn't working perfect and shit like that, or like tracking your time correctly.
Yeah.
Like I don't have a good accurate read of how long I played Kingdom Hearts 2 for on my Ain Odin because it was, in 2 times speed a lot of the time. So it's like, how long did I really play it for? Like actually? Whereas this one's just keeping track of it and the music doesn't speed up or anything like that. The voices are all normal. And so I just really, really appreciate the effort that went into it here. I think you can also like extremely see the connections between this game and Xenoblade Chronicles. They had sort of pitched it as the anti-Xenoblade games or Xenosaga games, which I understand the idea there. But like, I think Xenoblade specifically is also very interested in like the world that it inhabits and like, how did it get here? What made this world the way that it is? Mm-hmm. And like, so is this game. And I really, really like that. I think it's a very fun way to make a fantasy game where like you're interested in the main story and sort of like what's going on with those old gods and stuff like that. But also like, why is anything the way that it is?
Yeah.
And like kind of hunting for that answer, I think is a really fun way to build up kind of a secondary interest in the story.
Absolutely. Yeah.
So yeah, that is a Baten Kaitos. It's worth noting I'm just playing the first one. There's 2 in this collection, but I am playing Eternal Wings and the Lost Ocean. Which is the first one.
How did you not say that name until now? That is a great fucking name.
I think because it's just when I pull it up on Switch, it's just Baten Kaitos HD.
Eternal Wings and the Endless Ocean?
And the Lost Ocean.
The Lost Ocean? Oh man, that is good.
It's a fun one. Yeah,
it's great.
Good. So yeah, it's really interesting. I understand why this game is beloved, and I'm definitely going to keep playing it because I'm just like, what's going on in there? What's happening in this story?
Yeah.
So Murray, thank you for hounding me to eventually play this game.
Murray.
Anyway, David, this will bring me to my Podtimistic thing of the week.
Which is?
Speeding up a video game, David. It's that 2 times turbo speed, man.
So good.
There was a period of time where I was like a little resistant to doing this. And there are games where I think I still am because you are sort of getting in the way of the natural sort of like tempo of the video game, right? It is sort of interrupting that in a way. And so like, if you think about how humans speak and if you multiply that by 2, it's like you're losing some of what natural language does. And in the same way, I think it's like if you're just flying through these cutscenes, you do kind of lose the momentum of like, what if they really wanted to hold the camera on this person for actually 30 seconds rather than 15 or whatever, right? You lose a little bit of that. But I think, if you just play it normally, or if you have like a hotkey on like an emulator attached to like the speed up, you can turn it on and off pretty easily. And it just makes games like this so much more enjoyable for me. Mm-hmm. Every Pokemon game, I'm like, I need y'all to put in a 2 times speeder, please. Like they're so attached to like me seeing every animation and the fucking Pokeball coming out.
Yeah.
Like that was much more enjoyable for me when I was 10, but I'm like, man,
absolutely.
Really, like, come on, I really got to get in here.
No, the first time I played Pokemon on an emulator in college, I was like, this is the only way to play this game. I think I played like Fire Red or Leaf Green or something like that. I'm like, this is so much better. This is so much better.
Because I'm still mostly enjoying it. Again, I think that like there are drawbacks and you can feel it every now and then, but by and large, and I think especially for RPGs of this era, like, man, am I enjoying it more for every one of them. I played through 7 and 9, Final Fantasy 7 and 9, played through a lot of 10 this way too, where it just allows you to go faster in it. And I say what you will about like, TikTok brain rot or whatever. If I'm just like,
we all got TikTok brain. We don't got time for these long ass RPGs.
In a certain way, like, I know this isn't exactly the same thing, but I do kind of see it as almost like an accessibility feature of like, say you're a person who works 2 jobs or something like that, and you simply don't have time to play like a very long RPG, then I think that that's a cool way to be able to engage with that of,
you're right,
being like, I don't have the time. I want to play this game, but I can't physically.
You're right. FromSoft should add 200% speed to their games.
Jeez. I'm sure somebody would still upload a no-hit run like the day that
playing
dropped.
the bongo drums.
Yeah, DDR bongo drums only. But I think that it's cool when they add that because it allows people who maybe don't have the time to sit down with a 100-hour RPG to be like, I can turn this into a 40 to 50-hour RPG, and like that's more manageable, right? Because there's still so much like really cool stuff in a lot of these games that I don't think you would see if you just like saw the how long to beat and you're like, no way, dude, no way am I getting through that one. Like, some of the highest highs in a Pokemon game, for me at least, are like right at the end of the game when you're fighting the Elite Four, right? And like to get there, if you're playing the vanilla version, takes a while. Whereas if you've got like just something to speed up the battles a little bit, like you'll get there a lot faster. And I think that that's like cool. I think people seeing more of a video game is never a bad thing.
No, absolutely not.
So anyway, that's what got me feeling Podtimistic. David, what's got you feeling Podtimistic?
What's got me feeling Podtimistic is another scientific study backing up the fact that video games are good for you now.
They're good for you now.
They're good for you now. Nihon University assistant professor Hiroyuki Egami did a study that showed that owning a PS5 or Nintendo Switch was linked to better mental health during the pandemic.
Yeah, sure enough.
In their paper, they this is a quote. They say, our findings challenge common stereotypes about gaming being harmful or merely providing temporary euphoria, because these were long-standing improvements in people in their mental health and in life satisfaction. That's what it is.
Oh, cool.
At least for the PS5. Switch was not correlated with an increase in life satisfaction, only PS5, but both were correlated with an increase in improvement in mental health, with Switch being much more so correlated. So
and for anybody who has an Xbox, your mental health went down.
Yeah.
Get wrecked, Xbox.
It's really showing their Japanese bias because, this was a Japanese study, so they did not mention Xbox whatsoever. So
they said it'll make you feel worse.
Yeah, you're going to feel like a capitalist slave. But yeah, so video games are good for you, baby. It's truth.
One of our older episodes is called Video Games Are Good For You Now. That was like, I feel like early in the pandemic.
Early pandemic, when it was still kind of like, haha, a joke.
Yeah.
Ish. It was still, I think, it was locked down, but we were like, it's going to be like 2 weeks.
Yeah, it was the transition period, and I think Video Games Are Good For You finally came out, and we were like, this is just it for a while, isn't it?
Yeah, this is going to be a long time.
And I don't know if I won't speak for you, but at least that one stands out in my mind because A, it was so deeply linked with the pandemic, but that was also one of the first episodes that like quote unquote did good for us.
Yeah.
Where like, I guess at the time, all of our friends listened to it.
Everyone's like, all right, something to do.
It's podcast time, baby.
Mm-hmm.
So yeah, shouts out to that one. That was the first time it wasn't just like you, me, and Garen listening to our own podcast.
Mm-hmm. Garen, the original super fan.
Hey, do you want to move on to our main thing, dude?
Let's do it.
Welcome to Good Games. It's the segment where we talk about the okayest games of yesteryear and gush all the things that we love about them. We got suggested to play a little old game called Digimon World 3.
Ooh, man. Just him is powerful.
2 things. 1, had you heard of this game? 2, what's your Digimon life like?
I had heard of these games, yes. I think I had played some form of one of these games at some point in my life. I don't know which one it was, but it was definitely a Digimon game on the PlayStation, and I was terrible at it. I had no idea what was going on or how to play it, and my Mon just kept dying.
I had exactly the same experience.
My Digimon life was, I was a big Digihead. I was a big Digimon head in my youth. I had Digimon cards. I watched all the shows that were on, I forget, Toonami? Were they on Toonami? Cartoon Network?
I don't think that there were. They were on like a similar network to whatever Pokemon was on, though.
Yeah.
I think.
Yeah, they were definitely on around the same time as Pokemon. Yeah, I really liked Digimon as a kid. I really liked the anime, and I liked the cards. I thought it was a fun time.
I didn't really engage with the cards, but I was a big fan of the show. I thought the show was amazing.
Like, my Digimon card collection pales in comparison to my Pokemon card collection,
For sure.
but their cards were pretty cool.
For a game that was so clearly, I feel like, kind of knocking off Pokemon's whole vibe, like, I think that the show was actually pretty good. And like there was still a lot of care being put into that IP, I guess.
The Lies of P of Pokemon.
I think, yeah, I mean, honestly, that's a pretty apt comparison because both were like pretty good still.
Mm-hmm.
I also think that there's like a fair bit of like Digimon lore or like mechanics, I guess, of the world that I like a lot of. Like Pokemon almost feels like it is directly supposed to sell cards and toys.
Yeah.
And like, that's okay because the games are quite good too.
Mm-hmm.
But like, there's a lot of charm to the sort of anime, but it also feels like you're supposed to want to play Pokemon after this.
Sure.
Like, there's not necessarily like a larger story going on. And like, I can't say that Digimon was like a perfect story or anything like that, but
there was a story.
There was a story, and it seemed like there were kind of stakes that were there rather than just like Ash wants to be number one.
Absolutely. Yeah.
Which, like, again, not to really like shade either one, but I just like that. And I also really like the way that they handle evolution in Digimon, where it's like,
you mean Digivolution?
Yeah, when there's like a tough moment, that's when they go into another form, and that they can come back down to like their other form too.
Yeah, they have like their base form, and then you have different things that you collect that let them turn into a champion Pokemon or Digimon. Sorry, fuck.
Whereas like Pokemon evolutions are one way, you go through and that's it. That you're
now
that Pokemon
stuck
forever
as this
now.
less cute Pokemon.
Yeah, big tougher boy.
Mm-hmm.
Whereas like I like it that like a story moment. It's like, I mean, it's Dragon Ball Z, right? Like you turn into a new form when you're like pressed against, something emotionally.
Exactly. And at least in the anime, they had all their different crests, which were a different, like, they were the crest of courage, the crest of like wisdom, the crest of friendship. I'm like, okay, nice things to represent.
I will say that the thing that just like is not good about Digimon, that theme song is just hard to listen to.
Dude,
man.
I thought that was the hardest theme song.
Me too.
When I was a kid, I'm like, damn, this is like Pokemon for adults. This is so cool. This is the coolest sounding thing ever. And then you go back and listen to it. It's so nasally and like just so staccato.
The way it's sung is a little rough. The chords themselves are so dissonant.
Very dissonant. Yeah.
The like melody of that main thing, the ba ba ba, is like it's not fun to hear on my ears.
Wah, 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 wah.
Yeah, like it's kind of painful to experience, but the rest of it great. Mm-hmm. Worth noting that this was suggested to us by listener MLL. Thank you, MLL.
Thank you.
On this game, they had to say, grew up with this game. It's got a kind of clunky battles and digi evolution system, but it's got a great card game in it that is as fun as the story itself, which I can confirm. The card game kind of rocks in this game.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Also like the description clunky.
Clunky. That's a good word.
That's very helpful. Thank you for your suggestion, MLL.
Is clunky, and wonky? Yeah, clunky.
I think so, yeah, it's useful. Can I hit you with some hot stats about this game, David?
Please.
Hot stats.
Digimon World 3 was came out June 6th of 2002 in North America and July 4th, happy 4th of July, in 2002 in Japan, which is bizarre because like this is made by Bandai Namco.
US first?
That's what I was like, wait, like Bandai I think is a Japanese development company. Why on earth would they put out Digimon here first? But regardless, as suggested, it was made by a company called BEC, which I think is Bandai Entertainment Company or something like that. It seems like it's an internal Bandai development studio. Which is now known as BB Studios.
BB.
And it was made in conjunction with the company Boom Corp.
Boom Corp. My God. That's so good.
BEC had made a bunch of like tie-in games, and specifically tie-in games for Dragon Ball Z and some Gundam games and a bunch of other Digimon games, a lot of which were Japanese only. A lot of these games, they're mostly just released in the Japanese market. Mm-hmm. Also, I do have a review from our friends at Joe Video of Digimon World 3.
Hell yeah.
I took their review, ran it through Google Translate a number of times, one language into another to mangle it up and give it an artist's interpretation, which I will read for you, David, and you listener, now.
And Bruce.
And Bruce, he's here too.
Great.
Hello, Cat. The RPG experience puts Digimon above many similarly monstery games and could open doors for fans of the original Digital Men who missed out on those games. The software has bugs and the game isn't brand new, but those willing to spend, quote, a lot of money, unquote, on the game will have a great time playing it as the monsters are men. And they gave that a 6 out of 10, David.
Digital Men, not good. Digital Mons, good.
Good. Digital men are men.
It's just, who would it be?
I was just thinking JoJo, which is not all men, but like
JoJo Siwa or Joe Rogan?
I was thinking JoJo's Bizarre Adventure, but JoJo Siwa is also interesting. That's intriguing.
There's a lot of Joes we're talking about right now.
Yeah. Joe Video, JoJo Siwa, JoJo's Bizarre Adventure.
Joe Rogues. JoJo Rogues.
Joe really is on a bizarre adventure, isn't he?
He's had quite the journey from Fear Factor.
Fear Factor sounds like a show in JoJo's Bizarre Adventure.
Oh my God. Yeah, it absolutely does. Yeah, wow. Joseph Joestar would definitely go on
Fear Factor.
And he'd win somehow with some ass
He
pull.
would win, yes. David, could you tell me what Digimon World 3 is?
Yeah, Digimon World 3 is a top-down, I guess, isometric RPG.
I think so.
Yeah. You are a young lad, and you go into the digital world with your friends, which is like, it's just like an RPG that's like run by a company. And you get your Digimons in the beginning, you get a team of 3, and you go out into the world and you can train them, you can fight them. And then there's this very big overarching story of like computer, like digital terrorists going on in the background. So you think that at first it's going to be kind of like a Pokemon-esque story where you just kind of go and you fight the gym leaders and whatnot. But really it's like you're taking down like shadow corporations and terrorists, which is a little wild.
It's really nuts. Yeah, the story goes nutty mode pretty much immediately.
Yeah, because you get stuck in the digital world.
Yes.
They're just like, oh, sorry, there's been a hacker man attack and now you're stuck. The digital men have attacked and and you are stuck here now.
It does feel like digital men kind of always are attacking, aren't they?
I mean, you're not wrong. You're not wrong.
Also, like, the game is interesting because if I remember correctly, I read the plot the other day, and like, spoilers for Digimon World 3.
Did you almost say Digital Men 3?
Spoilers for Digital Men 3. It was a mistake. But Digimon World 3. I'm pretty sure that the terrorists are like the company that owns the digital world.
Yeah. The terrorists and the people who own the digital world are the same people.
Yeah. So like, is Digimon World like kind of commenting on like the military industrial complex and like corporate entrapment of like the shareholders and shit like that?
I think
like, damn, guys.
I think a bit.
Which is honestly sick. Nice job, Digimon.
Nice job. Nice mon.
Nice mon. In golf games, don't they say nice on?
They sure do when you get on the green.
Yeah. Whenever I see, if I could remember a single Digimon, that would be cool.
Agumon.
Whenever I see Agumon, I think, nice mom. What did you think about this game, David?
I thought it was fun. I thought it was a fun little romp. I didn't think it was anything groundbreaking, but it was a nice kind of more fleshed out version of like of like one of the portable Pokemon games. More intricate worlds, more flashy animations for the attacks and whatnot. And I enjoyed the Digimons themselves. So I enjoyed that aspect of the game. Yeah, I thought it was just a fun world to explore. I didn't think that the combat system was anything like to write home about. It felt very similar to, like I said, a more flashy Pokemon. But yeah, it was a good time. It was a good time.
Yeah. I found it pretty hard. I found the game pretty challenging.
A hard game because if you die, if all of your your Digis die, then you're just game over.
Yeah, it's just done.
It's
not like Pokemon. Yeah.
No, it's like halfway to a Nuzlocke is how it is all the time.
Yeah. I mean, it plays like other RPGs, right? Where like if you die, you have to go back to a save point.
Yeah, exactly.
But it does make it more challenging. And especially in the early game, I found like I was really getting my ass kicked most of the time. And like you so need to equip your Mon with like better gear almost immediately.
Yeah. I ran up to a Coleamon, the fish. Did you fight the fish?
I don't know. I don't remember almost any of their names.
I fought like a bony fish. and it just demolished me. I was doing like 15 damage to it and it had like 968 with one attack and just like one-shotted all of my Digimons. And I was like, okay, I'm doing something terribly wrong with this game right now.
I wandered out into the forest and just got my whole ass kicked. I was like, I think I gotta do a different strategy here. Something else has to work.
Yeah, because like the beginning of the game is like showing you how to play. And you're like, okay, I get this. I can do this. This isn't too bad.
It's Pokemon.
And then it's just no, fuck off. You're you're an idiot to think that this is the digital world, bro. It will eat you alive.
Yeah, you're gonna get your teeth kicked in.
That's just the hazing process.
Yeah, I found it pretty challenging, but like once I got over the hurdle of like what I actually needed to do to like play the game, I also found it pretty enjoyable. I think the art is like really good in the overworld, especially. Like it looks great.
I did enjoy the aesthetics of the world. Yeah.
Yeah, it's really cool. Again, like I'm a sucker for like a physicalized version of a digital world, like a la Battle Network, right? Like it's very similar to that game of just like, we're going to make the digital space a physical space.
Yeah.
It's also extremely 2003 or 2004 to imagine like, what's the internet? Well, it's a place I can put my body. Like not really, but
hey,
it's a helpful metaphor.
If we keep following Zuckerberg's path, this is the metaverse, baby.
I will not be following Zuckerberg's path. I'm following Tom and Tom only.
The true messiah, Tom.
Yeah, he went out and touched grass, and that was his solution. That's his metaverse.
Genius man.
Genius. That's the move. But yeah, like I thought the visuals of it were pretty compelling. It was a little jarring going into the battle system because it like is just kind of 3D models fighting each other, which like is very different than the art style in the overworld. The overworld is like, I wouldn't say hand-drawn, but like at least like a little more curated as far as the look of it.
It had more of an artistic aesthetic as opposed to the battle system felt more polygonal.
Yeah, for sure. Which like, makes sense. It's PS1 era.
Game.
And like, I also remember it being kind of a thrill in especially Pokemon Coliseum to be like, oh my God, I can see my Pokemon in 3D. Like that's very cool. And so I'm sure that they were relying on a similar sort of like flashiness there of, wouldn't it be cool to actually see these guys in action? Right. Because like, 2D pixel art had existed for a while at that point. And so it's not like that was necessarily new, but yeah, I think in hindsight, the overworld and sort of the exploration of it looks a lot better, but it looks great. I really enjoyed that part of it.
I like that I could give my Digimon swords.
It's so funny.
Just like straight up weapons.
It's it made me think about, oh my God, what is that like weird Pokemon knockoff game that came out earlier in the year?
Oh, Pal World?
Pal World. It reminded me of Pal World, of how you can like give them guns, but in this one it's like RPG equipment, you know? I think not as many sort of troubling implications about the world that Pal World has, but very funny that you can give like Agumon a sword.
Patamon's got brass knuckles now.
Yeah, exactly.
It's a pretty straightforward game. I did look up the last two entries in the game because I was like, did I play one of these? And then it said that it used to be a 3 versus 3 battle for Digimon World 1 and 2, and then they changed it to this version in Digimon World 3 where it's just 1-on-1.
Yeah.
And I don't know if that was the right way to go. I think they're probably just trying to do something more similar to Pokemon, but
probably.
I like the difference of the 3-on-3 battle. That sounds a little bit more interesting and fun. And I think kind of how the game in a lot of ways is set up in that they give you 3 Digimon to use, and like some are described as being better healers, some are described as being like more offensive, some are more defensive, right? So it's like, it seems like you want me to use them as a team, but I can't really. So yeah, going back and seeing that they used to be a 3-on-3 battle was like, okay, yeah, that makes sense. They tried something different for this one.
Yeah, it's interesting because they're clearly pulling from like 2 sources of inspiration. Like these games are rooted in RPG games, right? Like it feels like a Dragon Quest or something like that in a lot of ways, but it's also definitely pulling from Pokemon. And it seems like there's some like a little bit of friction there with trying to put those 2 things together because Pokemon is such a specific thing. Obviously, Pokemon's still pulling from RPGs too, like Shin Megami Tensei and shit like that. But I think the RPG meter is a little bit farther for Digimon. And so it's interesting to see like what they chose to include versus exclude, and like you're saying, the one-on-one thing, like that's a Pokemon decision, right?
Felt like it.
And I'm sure, it's interesting, right? Like, and 3-on-3 was a thing that like, I think Pokemon would eventually, start to experiment with like 2-on-2 and shit like that. And it's bizarre to see them kind of running after it. But I guess like that also makes sense. Like it's 2002 at this point, and like Pokemon has already solidified itself as like, this is the RPG series.
Pokemon is the biggest thing right now.
Yes, it was already a hit. And so I'm not surprised that they were like, maybe we should try and be a little bit more like them to succeed. Because like, weirdly enough, most of these games in this series are horribly reviewed. Like truly, truly badly reviewed video games, which I don't know. Like, I don't think that it
doesn't deserve that.
I don't think so. Like it's like 2 out of 10. It's like really, really low stuff.
It's a perfectly fine game. It's not going to knock your socks off. It's not going to change your view on what a video game can be, but it's like, it's a fun little game.
It's pretty, it's definitely at the very least interesting.
Yeah.
And I think most of the time whenever I play a game that is like in the Pokemon orbit, that is always what I'm thinking about, is like, how is this different than that? And like what works and what doesn't, right?
Yeah.
It's funny that like it has taken Pokemon until very recently to do like stories that are not just be the very best, I guess that was happening a little bit with like Gale of Darkness and stuff like that on GameCube. But like, I think that they stopped that experimentation for a while and we're just doing the 8 gym thing for most of this. And like, there's a story going on behind the scenes for most of it of like some big catastrophic Pokemon's going to get unleashed and like fuck everybody up. But it's centered around the 8 gym thing. Whereas like this one is not even close to that, right? It's this weird story about you getting stuck in the digital world and stuff like that.
Which is terrifying.
It's very scary. Yeah, it's a pretty visceral thing. That's also interesting that like motif comes up a lot with these kind of games. And like Digimon, I think the show was about that too, right? Like they were stuck in there. That was like like the inciting event of that one.
They couldn't get out. Well, the digital world was not something that was known like it is in this game.
Right.
They were just like at summer camp and all of a sudden they just get digitized out of nowhere and they're in the Digi world.
Yes, yeah. So there's that, but also like Sword Art Online is another one of these things that like you get stuck in there. I guess that's just like, I get it though. It feels frightening, right? To be like, oh my God, I'm in here and like the rules are different immediately, which is kind of cool, right?
Yeah.
It's like the inverse Matrix almost of, being stuck in the Matrix.
Absolutely.
Which is cool. I think it's a compelling story beat. The card game was good. I'm surprised that they haven't rolled that out into its own thing, because like I had heard about this too and was like, well, I got to check it out. And yeah, pretty good card game.
Do they have like just a Digimon trading card game like they have for Pokemon?
Digimon Card Battle is a PS1 game. Yeah, apparently that is a game. I actually don't know if that's the same thing as this game's card game though. I'm not positive.
Sure.
But yeah, pretty fun. And like, I'm not going to say it's like better than the rest of the game, but like it's in the lineage of card games in another video game that have no right being as good as they are, like this and like Gwent, I think of as like, why is this so good?
It's very thought out.
So that's all very good. It's interesting to like, also, I had mentioned this before, but just like compare what's in this one versus Pokemon or not. Like there's a lot of stuff in here that I think Pokemon fans for a long time were demanding that Pokemon was kind of like reticent to add, I think. Like your Digimon following you around is like a thing that I'm constantly hearing people chirp about in the Pokemon community of like, we need to be able to do this.
I was about to say, I did love that. Gave me big Pokemon Yellow vibes, because that was really the best part about that game.
It's Pikachu just, hounding your ass. I agree, but like, also like, I would be remiss if I didn't like also mention like, I think there's only 3 Pokemon that they really got to make, right? Or 3 Digimon that they got to make.
It's true.
Versus like 900 Pokemon that you would need to render.
All little sprites and everything.
Yeah. It's like, that's such a different situation. But it is cool that they have them here. It made you feel a little bit more connected, which for me, I think is always the thing that I'm looking for in Monster Hunter games, is like the connection that you feel with your monsters is like that is a core part of it that I think Pokemon oftentimes doesn't really focus on, other than sort of like a meta experience of like, do you want to name them? And like, do you want to feel connected by the sheer fact that you use them a lot?
You use them as a tool to fight.
Versus like, a Pokemon game where it's like you have one Pokemon and that's your one, Also, I forgot that Digimon speak English.
Perfectly
or like
good English.
Language.
Yeah.
It's so funny. I like they started talking and I'm like, wait, oh my God, I forgot about this entirely, which is like a real joy.
That's great. The one thing I will say that is a big miss for this game, and correct me if I'm wrong, but there's no actual animation for Digivolutions.
I think you just, you show up in battle as that Digievolution, right?
That was probably 90% of what made the anime cool was the Digivolution animations. And
where they're like spinning and shit.
Yeah. I'm like, you had to do something with that. You had to do something.
I know.
But big missed opportunity.
Yeah. Yeah, I'm with you. I also read that like from what I understand, or at least this is sort of the rumor, this might not be true, but like a lot of people had said that Bandai was like kind of rushed into releasing this game.
Oh, sure.
And that the battle system was not necessarily like tuned very well. And I think you can feel that. A lot of the people on the internet, when I was like, hey, what do I do to like get better at this game? They were just like, just upgrade your speed. Like that's the only thing you need to do is like get the fastest Digimon. Yes. Yeah. Like you need to have a high speed because that will like usually win you the battle. So somebody online was like, pick the Digimon with the highest speed, use this like one specific item that allows you to counter, and like you're good for like 80% of the game, and you just have to use attack. Like that's enough.
All right.
Which is bananas.
They broke it.
Yeah, I think so. And like, I think that doesn't to me necessarily speak to like how bad of a game this is or anything. It more speaks to me that like, that's a hard thing to do. And I think as much as somebody can say like, Pokemon, the first couple were like not very good, I think that they were at least serviceable to the point where like you could have fun fighting and like battling in those games where it felt like, wow, I'm rewarded for putting in time and like getting better at it. I think that those first couple Pokemon games catch a little bit of heat because like, the difference between like physical and I was going to say emotional damage in Pokemon. Or special attacks or anything like that.
Emotional
Pikachu
damage.
Uses emotional damage, yeah.
I never loved you, Ash.
That episode of Pokemon where Ash lets Butterfree go does actually feel like emotional damage.
That one's brutal.
That was a brutal episode.
They're not doing emotional damage to anyone in the universe. It's to me.
No, yeah. It's the spiritual guardian thing from Baten Kaitos. They're looking at the camera and they're like, we're going to use emotional damage on you, the watcher. But they catch a lot of flack for like sort of the way that they set that stuff up. And like I said, I agree that especially in a competitive situation, that's not like perfect, but in a single player game, which I think a lot of these games, that was one of the biggest use cases was single player, that's like fine. Whereas like this one is, it's tuned and really challenging and very difficult. So it's, it just kind of goes to show like how good the Pokemon like battle system was, especially in the beginning, even though like in hindsight, it's like, well, it's not perfect, right? Of course.
Sure ain't perfect, but laid the groundwork for something amazing.
For sure. Yeah. Anything else about Digimon World?
Digimon are cool. I like Digimon.
Digimon are cool.
Yeah.
I was a little bit worried that it would be nostalgia, like that Digimon would like not actually be that sick.
They're still sick.
They're still cool. Sick. They're still very cool. A lot of things not as good, especially the fucking theme song, but like the rest of it, pretty good, pretty fun.
Yeah.
I like Agumon.
Agumon's cool. Patamon's cool. Angemon is my boy.
Angemon's very cool. Very neat. I also like, man, it's the broken Dragon Ball Z part of my brain that whenever they like unlock a new form, I'm like, this is the highest high I've ever experienced.
This is what I have been waiting for the whole time. Yeah. My whole life, maybe.
Yeah, when it's like they start doing like the third and fourth Digi evolutions, I'm like, how am I supposed to ever top this? This is like peak human experience.
Absolutely. And then they do the DNA Digivolutions where like,
oh my God, yeah.
They combine two different Digimon and like the trainer as well gets in there. And it's like, now we're people and we're Mons? Wow.
You ain't really lived till you see a third or fourth Digi-evolution. Are you living or are you lying?
Who is talking to me right now?
This is the same guy from the Mud Runner, or what was that game that we played? Not Mud Runner, it's something else.
Snow Runner?
Ice Snow Runner. Yeah, Snow Runner. It's the same guy from that episode. It was like 100 episodes ago, I'm realizing.
I enjoyed that game.
Yeah, SnowRunner like maybe
crazy.
Fucks. There's I think that there's another one coming out pretty soon, which I'm interested in.
Damn.
I will definitely play another SnowRunner game. I also didn't play Mud Runner, so maybe that's it.
Let's get it, baby.
Let's get it. Thank you, MLL, for suggesting this game.
Yeah.
I appreciate your suggestion.
Thank you.
Okay, now it's the outro. Hello.
Hello.
Hey, I'm here to guide you through the outro. If you want to check out more stuff about Podtimism, you can go to podtimism.com. Wow. And there we have links to like our email and our social media that we have abandoned in favor of Discord. There's also a link to the Discord if you want to come hang out in there, which I recommend. It's a good time, and there's a lot of people chatting it up in there. So come through, come hang. If you want to help out the show, a couple things you can do. One of them is review it on something, whether that is Pocket Cast or Spotify, or telling your dad that you like the podcast, or telling your cat that you like it.
We're trying to get the dad and the cat market, huh?
Yeah, I feel like we're really lacking on the cat listeners. I look at the analytics and there are no cats that listen to this podcast.
Whoa.
So.
Okay. So we're going after the childless cat dad and moms right now?
Or ones with children. Either one.
Okay.
Either people are welcome. But yeah, that includes you, Taylor. So please listen.
Could you imagine?
God, yeah. Among the people that listen is fucking Taylor Swift. There's just no way that she is interested in video games this much.
You don't know that.
I don't know that. You are correct. But I would bet a lot that Taylor kind of doesn't give a hoot about video games and just isn't like floating around the internet.
Dog, she speedruns like, Doom Eternal.
That would be so cool. Taylor, I think you should start speedrunning Doom. I think that would be pretty sick. The other thing you can do is tell a friend about it, like a cat. So thank you for doing either one of those. Cal Wilkinson, thank you for your work on our podcast.
Beautiful.
It's so nice. It's so pretty. You can check out her stuff at ko-fi.com/humblegoat to see what else she's got going on. Sometimes our commissions are open and sometimes they're not. Worst garbage. Having a great time with this network. Happy to have another pod on there. Go check out Girl Mode if you haven't already. Yeah, that's great. Come hang out. And also, listener, the one that's listening to this, I'm speaking to you. Thank you for this. Thank you for listening to this specifically.
Thank you for letting us into your ears.
Yeah, appreciate it. You have hard-earned time and your hard-earned silence, and you have chose to interrupt your silence with our voices. So thank you for doing that. Appreciate
you. Definitely earn your silence. I love that.
Yeah, feels good, right?
Feels good.
So yeah, thank you so much. David, the gaming wisdom this week, I'm telling you.
Oh, shit, okay.
It's freaky androids do dream of electric feet.
You're right. I was going to, if you were going to ask me what the gaming wisdom was, I was going to say, don't get stuck in the digital world, which I think actually goes along with freaky androids dream of electric feet. Because where are the freaky androids going to be? They're going to be in the digital world, probably.
The digital world, yeah.
So, you don't want to mess with these freaky androids, man.
They're all up into the feet stuff.
Because once you get into the digital world, you then have electric feet. So long as you're out of the digital world, you're safe from these freaky androids. You're fine.
But they're going to be like hitting you up, be like, hey, what them grippers do, baby?
Grippers?
Grippers.
Oh, no. Is that really a term?
It's like a TikTok sound.
It's a sound?
Yeah, there's a TikTok sound that I think it's impersonating something in Sonic lore. And somebody says essentially like,
finally, I found you, Sonic. Put those grippers away.
It's a bad term. That's a bad term.
Androids would say, do not put those grippers away.
Bring them out.
Bring them out.
Put them under a magnifying glass for me to look even better at.
You heard T.I.'s bring them out? That's about feet.
It's about electric feet.
That's about android feet.
E-feet.
E-feet. T.I., I'm sorry for degrading your song like that, but it is about E-feet.
It's about E-feet. The world revolves around E-feet, that's for sure.
It sounds like we're saying Ifrit.
That's what I was hearing too, like Ifrit.
Summonable. Yeah. It's going to be tough to read Ifrit anymore and not think E-feet.
Just two flaming electric feet coming out from the ground.
Bring out my grippers. It's time for me to summon Gripper Monster. I don't know why that Skyrim doesn't have summons. I need to get out my Imperial toes.
Ooh.
Summon the E-feet.
The Thalmor are definitely the freaky androids of the Skyrim world.
Yeah, the Thalmor go crazy for them toes. Okay, all right. We'll see you next week.
All right, see ya.
Bye.
Bye-bye.